I surrender, I surrender.
All right, pal. Get ready for the day, buddy.
Hey, Dad. Hey, Dad. Do we have a gun?
What's that?
Do we have a gun?
This is our second electrical signal box that's being covered with art on vinyl to create a new pop of color, something whimsical and fun that when you're walking down the sidewalk, you get to see local art and enjoy being out in downtown's street. I really think beautification takes many forms: color, design, artistry, if that isn't by a mural that's painted on a building, if it's street gallery, if it's the alley gallery, doorways that you see, banners that hang on the light poles, all of these things make somebody know that they're in the right place. It's a place that's being taken care of. There is a reason to appreciate where you are.
So if you've ever come to one of our recycling drop-off sites, you know that those dumpsters are often very full and overflowing, but we are slowly converting them. We're in the parking lot of the Cyril Allgaier Community Center, and this is our first location that has made the switch. So having these smaller dumpsters that can be emptied on site will keep them from overflowing so easily. The larger dumpsters used to have to be put onto a truck and driven all the way to the recycling center, then emptied and then brought back. And our goal is to have a cleaner and safer environment for our residents that use these. They aren't accepting any different material, but we all know they've been misused a lot in the past. It's best to flatten your cardboard before recycling. So this is going to help not only with that, better, clearer signage for a message that residents can understand, and it will hopefully help prevent illegal dumping at these sites. It is going to make collection a lot more efficient for our staff. They're really a game changer.
My name is Antonio Butler, and I'm a sanitation tipper. It's a very physical job. You will have to be energized and bring your A game every day. Once I learned how to tip and got better at it, that's what I love to do. Help the residents out and getting rid of their trash, their yard waste, and their recycle. You know, it's a good feeling. Very intense job, but you know, I love it. I've been here 3 years. You know, I don't see myself going nowhere. It's great.
What are you looking for?
It is external agency funds, and the amount is $600,000. Decreasing homelessness, also financial stability, increased access to a targeted population. Those are the three primary focuses for RCS. There's not a specific project in mind as long as they align with those three primary focuses.
My name is Ronita Nance, and I'm an artist based here out of Louisville, Kentucky, and I actually work from my home.
Metro TV, 60 seconds, please. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Committee for Public Works. I'm Councilwoman Donna Purvis. I'm the chairperson. I have excused absences today from Councilman Eckerson as well as my co-chair, Councilman Engel. I have in the chambers today Councilman Syme, Councilman Rashad, and Councilwoman Flood, as well as Councilwoman Chappelle. Today we are here discussing, I also have in chambers today Councilman Benson. Today we will be discussing MV, which is the paratransit transportation that is used by Transit Authority of River City. We have some riders here who have been actually what I would call victims of MV paratransit. And today they will be here to speak about their experience. And the first one that I will call to speak today will be Mr. Dwayne Gant. I'm sorry. The clerks have to read the KRS statement. I'm sorry. Just give us a few seconds.
This meeting is being held pursuant to KRS 61.826 and Council Rule 5A, read in full.
Thank you. Okay. We are now ready to start the discussion. Thank you. Mr. Gant. Mr. Gant, you can begin.
Okay, my name is Dwayne Gant. I have several complaints, but I'm only going to go over one, and I will have the rest of my complaints forward to you by one of the members right after I speak. I want to go back to the complaint that I had in December, early December, starting with the day that I scheduled my ride, which was December the 6th. After placing my ride on December, I scheduled a ride to be picked up from my address going to 4 to 630 South 4th Street. And I had a 7 p.m. pickup and a 11:35 return. After placing my ride on December the 6th, starting early December the 7th, I started receiving calls from the reservationists that placed my reservations for me, and telling me that she made a mistake by placing my return trip, which was 11:35 p.m. She started it off by telling me that their latest pickup is only 10:30. So she tried to convince me to reschedule my trip. I refused to and request for her to transfer me to Anna's office to discuss why she wanted to change my ride. I could tell that she was being coerced by somebody in the office because asked me to hold on and wait, and somebody in the background was telling her what to say. So at that time, I refused to change my ride, and I asked for her to have Anna to give me a call. So my trip was scheduled on December the 9th. So from December the 6th up to December the 9th, I received several calls that their messages left on my voice call, asking me to give them a call, telling me that they made a mistake by scheduling me a return ride at 11:30, asking me to change my ride. And prior to me being picked up at 7 p.m., I continued to call in to see if my ride was still scheduled for a return at 11:35 p.m. On December the 9th, at 6:50, I called dispatch to check my rides, my pickup and return, discreetly asking what time is my pickup and then asking what time was my return. At that time, my trip was still scheduled for me to be picked up at 11:35 p.m. And, before 10 till 11, I started calling dispatch to check to see what time my return was coming to pick me up at that location, and I got no answer. I called several times after 11. I received no answer. The long story short, I ended up getting stranded at that address at 11:35, and I had to pay for Uber to get home about 12 a.m. After 12 a.m. that evening. I called in the next day asking dispatch why did they leave me stranded and why nobody picked up on the call. I got no answer. I called back on the 12th of December, and Anna answered the phone. And I questioned her about my trip, and she asked me to move. Time's up.
No, sir. You can continue.
Oh, excuse me. Okay, I started questioning Anna about my trip, and then conveniently we got disconnected. And the next person that I talked to was Bruce Withers, also on December the 12th. And from their responses, all I was getting, they were trying to cover their tracks and making excuses. And the person that answered my call at dispatch on December the 9th, when he told me that my trip was still in, somehow he was convinced, they convinced him to say that he accidentally canceled my ride at 5:30, but mentioning that at 6:50, my trip was still scheduled for me to be picked up at 11:35. And going back to when I talked to Anna and mentioning to her that somebody in reservations called me several times trying to convince me to change my ride, her response was that she gave me the wrong information. There was no way she was supposed to tell me that because there was nothing wrong with the trip, that everything was okay. If everything was okay, why did I receive calls all the way up to December the 9th trying to convince me to change my trip?
Mr. Gant,
Yes.
The times that you had to take an Uber, were you able to seek reimbursement for that cost?
Yes.
So MV reimbursed you?
No, MV did not reimburse me. Yeah, I think it was under the table to not leave a paper trail. So Bruce Withers forwarded a partial reimbursement to me through another member. So
okay,
that was it, with no paper trail. Supposedly, I think, coming out of his pocket. So that was the reimbursement, yeah.
So this has occurred about 3 or 4 times with you?
Yes. Every time I schedule a trip to 630 South 4th Street and 434 West Market Street. And when I ask for a return past 10:30, that's why I run into a roadblock. Anytime you have a fixed route that's from your going to your address and being picked up at the location, coming from the location that you're picked up and going to your address both ways, they're supposed to accommodate you and schedule that trip. But every time I try to schedule a trip past 10:30 p.m., I run into a roadblock, and the first thing they say is that we don't schedule trips past 10:30 p.m.
Is there anything written that says they do not pick up passengers past 10:30 p.m.?
I don't know. I don't know if it's written as that's what it's in. I don't know if it's in a job title, but all I know if there's a fixed route to or from, they have to provide a trip for you. They can't deny you a trip or refuse to schedule you a trip. But their take is every time their latest pickup is at 10:30, and the only time that they schedule past 10:30 if they're picking you up from work.
Okay. Well, this is something that we will confirm with the person over at MV Transportation as far as their cutoff time. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. Marcellus Mays.
Step forward. You're stepping into the bit right there. Right there, microphone in front of you.
Mr. Marcellus, you can start. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, I'm Marcellus Mays. I'm out of District 3. I am the president of Metro Disability Coalition here in Louisville, and I do know about MV Transit because I've been dealing with TARP probably since working on different committees and different capacities there, volunteering over the years on eligibility, on quality control, and on the appeals board referee committee, and on a couple of contracts where we brought paratransit contractors into Louisville. This that we have here, I told Mayor Greenberg and Mayor Fisher both, is the first time that Louisville had negotiated a contract with the former executive director, Mr. Ferdinand Risco, that ended up resigning from Louisville. This is the contract that he negotiated. The problem that Louisville has right now in dealing with paratransit is that it's a platform that should not be used here, and a lot of places that they have eliminated them is because basically you have a monopoly. MV Transit is a for-profit company known all over the country for providing paratransit services, but anytime you have a monopoly, and I perceive it to be a violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act, that vendor is in it to make money. And they're the ones that subcontract with Z-Trip, Choice Transportation, Alpha Transportation, Momentum, and all these other subcontractors that they have. And some of the primary issues with that is all those companies are in it to make money and to provide transportation. You have elderly, and I'm blind myself, that you got people that they're putting out step stools for people to step up on that fall off, and they don't provide accessible transportation. This contract over a 7-year period is worth $118 million. You have an executive director. I heard Mayor Greenberg say the other day, I guess it was a couple of days ago, where you had a lady waving a gun in Valley Station, saying that here in Louisville, we want to be transparent and we want to be accountable. You can't have a compassionate city that leaves a segment of its population to the mercy and the will of people making money. Because people that are focused on making money and partnering with a nonprofit entity like TARC does not work. Their main focus is not to service customers, not to make sure that they're picked up and not make sure that they get there on time. We have doctor's appointments. We have everything that affects people in life affects us. And so you as city leaders should have the proper oversight. TARC in this contractual agreement is not providing the proper oversight to make sure and assure that people in this community is getting what it's paying for. Because I hear them oftentimes say in the board meetings at TARC that the contractor reports that we got 92% on-time performance. But I know it, I had weekly transportation meetings where I had riders along with myself call in about problems that they're having. And these people are being left, and you have a person with Kerry Butler that comes to a Metro Council meeting, speaking to former president of Metro Council, President James, and stood up here in front of this council and told him, I will not assure that I will pick those customers up. How do you still have a job? That's the kind of leadership that we do not need. We have a board of directors over there that is not representative of this community. It's not inclusive. It's not equitable. You have people that live outside the area that TARC services. We should have in this community a transportation system that TARC is the best at moving people. It's a transportation mobility company. They could run that and subcontract with whomever they need to provide services, but we do not need somebody in here that's main focuses on making money and not providing services for people. Just to give an example, I know I was leaving out of Loop and was going to Southeast Christian Church. They picked me up, and it was a foreign driver. It's not his fault. He's working off a platform and a computer. And they sent me back to Dixie Highway out on at the south end at the 5400 block of Dixie Highway. I sit there for 40 minutes. The dispatcher could not be reached by either me as a customer in the car or the driver. Nobody could be reached to tell us where we were going. And then when I did finally reach it, it was a foreign lady that they subcontract with out of town somewhere and transferred me to a number that don't exist. That's the kind of stuff it's not a thing that's just happening to Marcellus Mays. It's happening to a lot of customers. And something has to be done. What the Metro Council can do, we have several of our members that I've already filed claims to take a federal action against TARC and MV Transit. That's already in the process. But it's so egregious right now that to sit up here and let people, it's just like, I know you have people that take tests. I remember I was in school where you take a test and you grade it yourself. These people are reporting the statistical data to make money and to appear to not do anything wrong. But when you have a Metro Council member and they stood up here before government oversight on 2 separate occasions before, where you have TARC reporting routinely $1 million of liquidated damages, and you got people like Mr. Gant and people out here within MV's policy, it says, this is their policies, it's not in the TARC Rider's Handbook. Their policy is, even when we make mistakes, we don't apologize, and we don't have no system set up to reimburse anybody. That's what we do not need in Louisville. We need a responsible transportation entity, even if it has to be abolished and ran by the city of Louisville. But this community deserves better. With all the infrastructure dollars, American Rescue money that has come into this city, it is appalling that the Mayor Fisher and now Mayor Greenberg would allow this lady to remain in leadership and not guarantee that customers will be picked up. We need to do something. We need to dissolve this board, and Louisville needs to have a change, and we need to have leaders that have the undying gall and fortitude and determination to give this community what it deserves. Thank you.
Mr. Mays, I do want to ask you a few questions, and thank you so much for being here today. I wanted to ask, prior to MV, did you experience these types of problems before MV came on board?
Yes, like I say, I was on quality control at TARC and on the contract teams. The reason MV was here before, Greg Page, the former heavyweight champion here in Louisville, was injured on an MV vehicle and died from as a result of those injuries. That was one of the reasons that we terminated the contract with MV before. This is the kind of, and I mean, there were other cases where a lady was left and they had to end up paying like $3 or $4 million where they left a woman laying out on a lift that had MS and they wouldn't get her up. They tried to call the road supervisors out to have an orchestrate story and all that so that it wouldn't look so bad, and that's why they had to end up paying damages in that case. But that's why we got rid of it. Then First Transit came in. But what I'm saying, what needs to be done, Ms. Purvis, we need to give an opportunity for the Transit Authority of River City the opportunity to run it from inside. Because what I see right now, you got all these players that are involved, that are in it to make money, playing off of each other, and they'll say, well, that's MV's fault. If I call over to make a complaint at TARC, well, they have the contract. That doesn't mean anything. You got people at TARC that feel comfortable not returning calls to customers. We're not going to pay you anything. We're not going to apologize. Y'all do whatever you need to do. We feel like if we leaving a certain percentage of people, according to our statistical data from self-reporting, so be it. Do what you need to do.
And the last thing I wanted to ask you is the dispatch office, is it open 24 hours?
No, it's not open. It's open till around, usually till the last bus gets in, and that's usually till about 11:30. But what he's running into and what paratransit is based off legally, it's based off whatever fixed route buses Louisville has on the road. And what he was trying to say to you, if it's like a 18th Street, and his house was located near that area within 3/4 of a mile on both ends of the trip, TARC 3 is by law required to provide that transportation. Say if I wanted to leave St. Stephen's for a 12 o'clock service at night, they have to provide me with that service because the last bus running on the 23rd Broadway, 18th is at 12:20 at night. 12:20 a.m. in the morning. So they have to provide transportation based on whatever available fixed route buses that are out on the road.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Is Melinda McCullough here?
I have an alternate, Brother George.
Okay, and what is that alternate's name?
Reverend George Mays, Jr.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mays, for being here.
How you doing?
Good. George Mays, Jr.
Yes,
for the
Reverend
record.
George Mays, Jr.
Okay, thank you for being here. You can begin. Thank you.
I want to thank the council members for listening to these issues. I just got a couple points I want to point out. Number one, my history, I worked in Reno, Nevada for the Reno VA and also for the Sparks Police Department there. And I sat on the board under Harry Reid. I was part of Senator Reid's task force to address mass transit. And the first opportunity that I had to work with MV, they were doing some of the same issues that are going on now. As a board in Las Vegas, I was the chairperson over the Northern Nevada mass transit, paratransit, and we terminated MV because of some of these issues. I think someone got killed. I've been working with Mr. Gant because I'm an advocate and I ride paratransit also. My grandson has autism, and one of the issues is, his name is Major Jeremiah Mays, and one of the issues is that the drivers don't go to the doors. I'm not saying all of them, but we're door-to-door service. I pointed that out to Mr. Withers this morning. And I've been trying to work with Ms. Withers and Jennifer Miles, and Mr. Gant told me about his problem. So I went directly to Mr. Withers, and I talked to Jennifer Miles, and I find it very amazing that they don't make people whole. And I'm saying that when a person, when you get your check each week, you expect 40 hours, not 20 hours. And they fined MV for not picking up. So I asked Ms. Miles, I said, where does this money go? Well, we don't pay them, but we just hold it. And I've been asking for the last 6 months that we needed an independent audit. I work with numbers and statistics out of Washington with the federal government, and you can skew those numbers any way you want to skew them. But the problem that I see with TARP is there's no accountability. Who's checking their numbers? I'm blind, and I just don't believe those numbers. How can you have 92% pickup and people are still being left? My mother, she's gone on to be with the Lord, was afraid to ride the service. We had to end up getting her a van to transport her because being out, left, took to the wrong place. And there's no compensation for the individual. And I want to tell each one of you council members, a disability can happen to anyone, anytime. Would you want your mother or your father left, or your child left or injured? Louisville has the most blind people anywhere. We should be a better model. You can't have leadership and nepotism when there is no representation. I applied for the board, and I'm highly qualified. They didn't want me, and I know why they didn't want me, because I know how this thing is supposed to work. We as blind people and disabled people, we're taxed just like you are. Taxation without representation is not acceptable. I would like to hope that this council will do something, anything, to make sure that we have equal representation and inclusion. You can't have these boards where you're putting people on there that haven't done anything in the past but talk. I thank you for your time. If you have questions, I'm glad to answer them.
I appreciate you being here, and I truly understand. It appears to me from just listening to you three gentlemen, it's a sad ordeal. We did invite Ms. Jennifer Miles. I think she is the Director of Transportation with MV. She had a schedule conflict, so she wasn't able to be here. But based on the discussions that we've had with you three today, I will be in contact with her. And I do have some questions for her. And hopes that whatever information she can provide me with, that I can share it publicly. Thank you so much. We were to have a Miss Den and Miss Reed here, and I understand they were not able to be here. Do we have anybody else to speak?
Would you rather sit?
Prop myself up. It's all right. It's okay, huh? I'm going. Good afternoon. My name is Shedrick Jones, Sr. Very happy to be here. Not happy about the topic of our discussion. I've been dealing with public transportation since May of 1966. And I have watched talk transportation deteriorate since 1966. In 2017, through illness, I had to stop driving and made it possible for me to ride with Talk 3. And I can honestly tell you that what you're hearing about passengers not being picked up doesn't come close to scraping the iceberg in reference to the malfeasance, poor management, and deceit of information that's been sent to this body and the mayor and anybody else. Let me just give you a fun instance. Southwest Jefferson County, the community college out there and the medical facility does not have Talk 3 service to either one of them, and in some cases, Talk. So you have young people walking down the side of the road from Dixie Highway over to the community college campus on a daily basis. And I've been told that it is because it's not in the service delivery area. Well, my thing is, if you can go to the Gene Snyder, you ought to be able to go to Southwest Community College campus. There's a long distance in between that. I had an occasion where I was going to 235 West Main Street. That's the Veterans Administration building. I was reading or doing something, and we were going across the bridge. My grandson was with me, and he was taking pictures. And I asked the driver, I said, "Where are we going?" She said, "I can hear you, but I can't understand you." We went to mile marker 38, which is Henryville, Indiana. When we got to Henryville, Indiana, the driver was trying to call back to the dispatch to find out what was she supposed to do. And then she asked me, she said, "Do you know where you're supposed to go?" I said, "Yeah, I'm supposed to be going to 235 West Main Street, the Humana, in the Veterans Building." And she said, "Well, this is not what my GPS says. Let me call the dispatcher." We sat there for 35, 45 minutes. She could not get any communications with Talk. And I laughed about it. I said, "Well, let me see, can I reach somebody?" So I used my cell phone, and finally I got a response, and it was from a dispatcher in Des Moines, Iowa. That is a part of that national communication network. So when you have service that you need in your community and you care about people, you can't depend on Des Moines, Iowa in case you have an emergency or something. So then finally I told, the person came back to me and they said, well, let me give you some instructions and you can tell the driver. I said, no. I said, are you all getting ready to put me to work? Are you offering me a job? Because I don't want to work for Talk 3. And she said, well, you don't have to. I said, I can give the driver the discussion. All she has to do is get out of this valley and get up on the expressway. She will have access, and she can go on back across the bridge. But you take that, you take the imposition and the malfeasance that has been going along with this leadership coming straight down the line. And that's what it is. You all know what the word malfeasance is. It starts right at the top, and if you have a job description and you don't perform that job legally, that is malfeasance. And that's been going on around here for about 10 years or more. So now I'm not going to bore you with all the other things, but I will tell you that during the pandemic, I know you all wasn't getting it. You have not been getting the reports about Talk 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and that's these contractors. You didn't get reports from the health department about the bed bugs and the other exposure and health issues that was on these vehicles with these subcontractors. You got a mess out there now where I am waiting any day for a passenger to go off on one of these subcontractors. They don't feel like they have to follow instructions. They don't know what personal care and stuff is. I can take care of me, but a lot of these ladies, and we have a lot of passengers that cannot defend themselves, and this is the reason we have this service. I am pretty well sure I'm willing to partner up with this committee, Metro Council, and anybody else to make this better. And the only way to make it better is to put all of this under one umbrella. Because if you have to depend on the service you're paying for and the decisions that come from Dallas, Texas, we're never going to be anywhere. And that's what I'm asking. I'm asking to bring this as one particular entity. And I'll volunteer and I have resources and things, but from 2017 to now, I have dates, times, and incidents that show that this particular service is not a part of the kind of image that Louisville, Kentucky need to portray. Now, it might be fine for the conventions and the people coming out of town, but as far as residents, and if you would, ask your legal department to go back and see how many lawsuits has come through and has been paid off without your knowledge with injuries and things. If you'll do that, I'm available. Anytime you need me, I'll be glad to come back. And it's a lot more to this picture than just how many people are getting left behind and not being picked up. For your information, I have the record of spending the longest period of time from home to back home, and that's being stranded 14 hours. I was at Hotel Louisville. In all these places where these problems started, I have person's name, dates, and times. I will give you permission to get my transportation record, get it unredacted, and I'll sign it for you and show you where these things are. I represent the National Association of Black Veterans, and I refuse to have another veteran embarrassed and defaced and demeaned by this operation. Anybody have any questions? Let me know. I am disabled and available with the exception of medical appointments. I would really love to see this service have the kind of image that we're trying to project with the rest of our community, and it doesn't come close.
Mr. Jones, thank you for being here. At some point in time, I would like to get some of your notes, go over those notes with the director of MV Transportation here locally. And I believe what you're saying. I just want them to confirm, and I need to do that before we can move forward in saying how can we make the corrections so that they can better serve the community, and especially the disability community, disabled or not. You've paid your dues, you're a veteran. Mr. Gant has paid his dues. He's a former educator, the minister here. So no one deserves to be treated like this. So at some point in time, I will be reaching out to you, if it's okay, to get some of those notes from you and go over those with the director of the MV Transportation.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you
Does
very
anyone have any questions? No one does? I appreciate everyone being here today. If there are no other questions, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Cut the bolt. We are